Can you guys hear me now? Awesome. All right. So what we're going to go over is one of the investors on the call has some really good scenarios, and he's going to type up his top 5 questions about when we should reevaluate selling versus paying tax versus rolling up with a portfolio, and how holding a current portfolio helps us long term. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you guys is I want you to think of the following questions right now. Question number 1 is, what do I think 2018 market will be like? What do I think the 2018 market will be like in values? Number 2, what do I think the 2018 market will be like in rentals? Okay. Number 3, what I sell now better than what I can buy? All right, so please write those down that you guys can hear me. So let me go over a question again. What do I think the 2018 market will be like in values? Number 2, what do I think the 2018 market will be like in rentals? And number 3 is what I sell now better than what I can buy? So the reason why I'm bringing this up is a couple of reasons. 2 years ago, I did 2 1031 exchanges. The first 1031 exchange, let me share the background so you guys can have an idea with this. I bought a property for $25K in Ogden, cash. In 2009, okay? I sold it for $65K in Ogden, cash in 2015. With the sale, I had to take into consideration the following. 1, what is the cap rate of the asset? 2, what can I do with the cash versus keep the asset? 3, am I at the top of the market? And can I make more money with the current asset versus a new one? All right, so the reason why I'm bringing this up as you guys are writing this down is I talked to 2 investors in their 60s last week. One has $600,000 in a free and clear property they're selling in February. They're going to be doing a 1031 exchange. And the other investor has a $550,000 asset that they're selling because they're doing a 1031 exchange. Their depreciation is gone, so they no longer have any depreciation to help with taxes. Okay, number 2, one is they're forced to sell due to a business. 3 is they want a less maintenance home that needs minimal, I'm not going to call it home. They want less maintenance asset that needs less work. They're less concerned with the ROI because of deferred maintenance. Okay, so here's why I'm bringing this up. Rafael Javez, you should probably ask a couple questions on here. Okay, so I can have this prepared. So why I'm bringing this up is I want you guys to write down some things to consider, and the reason why I'm bringing this up for all of us to listen to is this is good to think about as we're talking to sellers or as we're talking to strategic partners that we could buy their homes from. 3 months ago, I bought 4 properties from another investor because they wanted to get their cash and go do something else. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is here's the things to consider. So on this investor transaction, I'm going to share with you guys, and Rafael, confirm yes, it's okay to share this real quick. Say yes, this is okay, so I can see you saying yes. All right, cool. This will be fun, so you guys can read this real quick. And for those that aren't watching, thank you for scheduling our next call, blah, blah. Okay, received and reviewed a list of sold, active, pending comps for multifamily properties from my realtor. Okay, good. So anytime you guys are thinking about selling a property, you need to get active comps. Why I like this example is these properties are actually out of Utah. So it's good to see how this looks like. Good, they've determined the listing prices for the apartments. 3, they've updated the rolled up financial analysis attached. 4, they've revised the marketing package with updated listing prices and rent rolls. That's really smart. So quick example. Last one, sorry. Consulted with a 1031 exchange facilitator. Okay, so these are all good things to do, to consider before you sell a house. So a couple things. On Monday, I got a property brought to me that was the top of the market, which is okay depending on what it is. It is a turnkey property, more turnkey. I'll call it more turnkey. But the layout of the property was unique. We couldn't confirm items from the city. Wasn't documentable. The city's also closed yesterday, and they got to close on Monday. I don't want to just put $5,000 just based on someone's word. So people just don't know. So you got to do your due diligence as you're thinking of buying and selling, okay? So why I'm bringing this up is here's a cool example of what's a CMA versus comps. As you guys can see this is in a different market. But I want you guys to look at a couple things with what to consider. Is you'll see LP means list price. This is the price of sales. So it gives you an idea of what the properties are going for. So this is a different way of looking at it, and it's good to get familiar with different markets, because I know some investors are going to buy properties out of state. Some people are only buying in Utah, but it's good to take into consideration. So as you guys look at the comps, I actually love looking at this again. You have a duplex, 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 triplex. So a couple of comments with this. You might be thinking, why do you have a triplex? A couple reasons. One is triplexes are the least common. Triplexes are the least common properties that are built. So you're going to have more duplexes than triplexes. I recently helped a client buy a triplex, and they actually used fourplex and duplex comps, which I didn't know they would do that, okay? So I called the appraisal management company, and I also probably haven't done a triplex in a long, long, long time. So I called the appraisal management company and asked them, and they said, we got to take into consideration, here's what they said, the total square footage was number 1. Number 2 is then they took into consideration rent. Then they took into consideration, distance of where the property was. So this triplex was in South Jordan, Utah, which of all places you wouldn't expect a triplex in South Jordan, Utah. They used duplex and fourplex comps from Midvale and Sandy to comp out the duplex or the triplex in South Jordan. So it's good to know the market, okay? So as you keep looking at these sold comps, prices 135, 150, 150, 152 gives you an idea of what the properties look like. Okay, shows active 165, sold 175, under contract fourplex. It's built in 1980, so I'm not sure I would use that. You also got to take into consideration total square footage, pending sell. So you have a wide range of years built. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is when you're dealing with multifamilies over a fourplex, like a fiveplex or a sixplex, you're going to take into consideration the value more based on the income approach. If you guys want to write that down, on residential real estate, you're going to take more into consideration of the sales comparison approach. So how you analyze multi-units commercial versus multi-units residential is definitely different. So as we're looking at this more, you guys are like, okay, we've seen these we've seen these properties. So this gives you a good example of what these properties look like, so you know what the CMA is, okay? So I'm going to keep going. This is what you need to consider before you sell, is what I own now and what can I do. So here's the marketing package on a different property, okay? So great investment opportunity here. So here's what their marketing package is. So a couple items. There's a fourplex, and a sixplex. Holy cow, those are cheap. Gotta love Wyoming, okay? So here's what's cool, is the investor put this data together to actually give an idea of like what they could sell the properties for. So some of you guys might want to buy these in Wyoming, wink. Some of you guys might want to take this into consideration when you're selling, period, wink. And the other person, I'm doing a wink on purpose because you guys can watch this. The other thing to take into consideration is what you buy now is what you have to sell. Do you guys want to write that one down? What you buy now is what you have to sell. A couple of things I thought was really interesting. The vacancy rate in his market in Wyoming is 12 to 13%. It's interesting. The expense versus revenue ratio is 40%. Gone up or down 3 to 4 points, 30K in 2014. So you got to take into consideration what the growth is. As you're looking at the properties that you want to sell, is I know this investor, actually, Rafael Chavez, can you share the number one reason why you guys want to liquidate this property real quick, so that I can give some alternatives for people to think about? So as we're sharing this, is a couple of things you want to take into consideration. Remember, number one, what do you think the market will be in 2018? What do you think the rental market will be in 2018? And is what I sell now better than what I can buy? So I want you guys to think about this. Can he sell these properties depending on where he's going? He might be staying local in Wyoming. He might be going to Utah. He might be going to a different market. But I think you should take into consideration what these assets are doing, okay? So here's a cool on a rent roll. On average, they make $9,850 a month when they're all rented out. So 98.5 times 12 is like almost 120,000. This gives a good example of what the square footage is. And here's the reason why they want to sell. It says, parents are tired landlords. They're having health issues and want out of the property management, but they want continued cash flow. So I'm going to say this again. Parents are tired landlords. They are having health issues and want out of the property management, but they want continued cash flow. So if you guys talk to a seller, what solution would you give based on that? I'm going to take 30 seconds I want you guys to type in. I'm going to read each of these scenarios because I want to see what you guys come up with, and I'm going to kind of find out a couple things to help them out. So if you had a landlord who's tired and having health issues and they want out of property management, but they want the cash flow. So what's the solution that you guys have? I'm going to take 1 minute and let you guys type up a couple questions. Go ahead. Cool, I've got like 28 people on the call, and I've got 3 people who've asked a question, so please keep participating. Okay, I've got 4 people participating. Keep going. Cool. Do they own the properties free and clear? And I'm just going to ask these questions, okay? Do they own these properties free and clear? You could do an installment sale. Good comment. You could offer some type of seller financing so they can maintain the cash flow. That's also an installment sale. Good. They could sell or finance the properties. What sort of cash flow are they looking for? How much do they need to make each month? That's a good comment. If they own them free and clear, structure a note and deed of trust to pay them interest they need. Okay, good. We've considered seller financing, which alleviates landlording and could have potential higher cash flow. The issue is the cash flow has an expiration date. So I'll ask a question in that a second. They want perpetual cash flow. How concerned are they with taxes? Great question. So a couple of things. Or they could just sell these properties and they could pay tax, right? So the comment is, what would be their tax liability? So that's a good question. You guys want to write that down. What would be your tax liability if you didn't do a 1031? What would be the tax advantages to doing an installment sale? And what if you just sold them? What if you delegated the management to someone else? I like that example. So how do you determine the tax liability? Great question. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to contact your CPA, find out what their tax rates would be based on the previous years, take into consideration what, and I'm gonna, thanks for sharing this. I'm going to share this so other people can ID. So you want to take into consideration if they sold the properties, what their tax rates would be. You'd want to take into consideration what the depreciation is versus what they owe on the mortgage. You'd also want to take into consideration what they would do with the cash. Sometimes people, when they sell, they own the properties in their personal name. Sometimes they own them in entities' names. You also need to take into consideration, if you did a 1031, are you getting residential financing again or paying cash? So here's some cool things that you guys shared that Rafael Chavez felt comfortable sharing. So as I'm going to go over this with you, I'm going to kind of go over really detailed. He's a smart guy who's really good with spreadsheets, okay? So if you guys will notice, the one property, it's a fourplex, and I'm going to go over one line item really, really in depth, so then you guys can kind of re-evaluate this, okay? So it's a fourplex built 1933. It's 1,800 square feet, gross living area. It's total square footage of 3,060. It's half an acre. Zoning's R2. Cool. So he could do highest and best use is he could do 7 townhomes. The 2017 assessors 224. They think the appraised value is 200. I think that's interesting, that the tax value is higher than what an appraiser said. 2016, the NOI means net operating income, shows what the gross rents are annually. The cap rate is 10%. That's really good. It's higher than Utah's cap rates. So here's what gets cool. So they bought the property in 1999. Holy shiz. They bought the property 18 years ago. 18? No. Yep, 18. They bought the property for $60,000. They owe $0. So you take into consideration, please write this down and I'm going to show you. So you take the purchase price, $60K minus land value equals what? So like, let's say the land value was $15,000. So let's just do a hypothetical. I don't think there's land value in here. Don't see land value. All right. So let's call the land value, we'll call it $10,000. Land value is $10,000. So what does the property start depreciation of in 1999? I want everyone to type in a number. What do you start depreciating in 1999? I've had 2 people enter it. Keep going, guys. That's okay. You don't have an idea. I appreciate the honesty. Keep going, guys. Residential real estate would be $50K. All right. So you take $50K divided by 27 and a half years. I'm grabbing my calculator. $50K divided by 27 and a half years. This is residential real estate. Commercial real estate's different. How much depreciation is that a year? $1,818.18. That's a really random number, okay? So it's good if you do that and they've owned the property for 19 years, the property is depreciated $34,545 minus $50,000 is $15,454. Now, a couple things. I'm not going to go over this as in depth right now, but sometimes people do they do depreciation acceleration. You need to contact your CPA about that. I'm doing normal depreciation over 27.5 years, but I just want to share these are things you need to take into consideration when you're thinking about how to build a retirement plan, right? So what's cool with this information that Rafael is willing to share this. I love calling you Rafael. I know you probably don't like it. The depreciation claim versus the depreciation value. So sales price, 186. So here's all this jazz. I love US freaking tax rates. His total tax if he sold his property not on an installment sale would be $25,829. So a couple of things. I don't know about his family's tax situation. Everyone's tax situation is different. That's why you guys gotta consider talking to a tax professional. But here's what they can do. They can sell the property and they can roll up. I love it. They can roll up and buy a property. It looks like how he did this illustration for a down payment. So it looks like he's wanting to buy a bigger property for $671,000 and putting 25% down. And what's really cool with this, guys, is this helps you start seeing how to get more leveraged or how to have your assets cash flow more. So as you guys will see this, I know this is a lot of information, which is really, really good, is this is the type of planning that you will continue to do, and if you don't understand, that's okay. That means we're thinking long-term with how to get where you want to go. So I'm going to take a deep breath. Where he has the 507G right here, he has what the gross rents are, he has what's the net operating income, the vacancy rates, he has the different percentages. What they're doing is taking into consideration, do we want to sell the properties now and do we want to sell the properties now and do an installment sell, or do we want to sell the properties now and do a 1031, or do we want to keep the property and have a manager manage it? So let's give those three options. So option number one, I want everyone to participate. Do you want to sell the property now and just pay tax? Option number two, actually there's four. Option number two, do you want to, so number one, pay tax. Number two, installment sell. Number three, roll up 1031. Number four, hire a PM and keep the asset. So number one, pay the tax. You still have a cash flow challenge. Number two, installment sell. What is the cash flow they want? Number three, what do they want to buy? Number four, does the PM solve the challenge for management? All right, so I want you guys to tell me what you would do, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Well, oh, I like that you guys are participating. This is fun. 1, 2, 3, or 4. I'll wait another 30 seconds. Come on, Rafael, what do you think? 1, 2, 3, or 4? So I got, I'm young. I want to roll up so my kids can inherit the properties and reset the basis. I'm going to talk about that at the end. Someone else, do a combination of 2, installment sell, and 3 is roll up. Door number 3, if find something that requires less hands-on. Option number 3, because of the increased cash flow. Number 4 seems to meet their needs the best. Cool. So it's all real different based on, you know, what the challenges are. So a couple things I want to do about final state planning. The reasons why I'm sharing these examples with you guys is because if you're going to go find seller finance properties, the more you're familiar with this, the better types of conversations you're going to have with sellers on solving their problems. Number two, you guys all have these big freaking audacious goals, which are awesome. You need to start planning about how you want to solve these problems moving forward. And number three, some of your guys' goals, which are awesome, have some big numbers that you got to take into consideration. Tax. So what's cool is Rafael felt comfortable sharing this with us so that I could go through everyone like what I would consider. Here's what we know. We know the market in Wyoming can only grow so much, so you got to take that into consideration. If you're moving to the Utah market, that's something to consider. Now you want to be Weber County or Salt Lake County or Utah County, okay? They also need to take into consideration where, as long as they satisfy what their cash flow is needed, which is really important. Different example. Another investor I know who used to be on these calls a couple years ago, he owned some properties out of state, and he did a contract for deed, and the contract for deed is not getting satisfied based on how long they did the deed for. He had a certain amount of time to pay him back. The owner, or the person who has the interest, has a $65,000 IRS tax lien and can't resolve it. Why I'm bringing this up is we got to take into consideration what our risks are when we're liquidating assets. So you could do a contract for deed, you could do an installment sale. Is it that common that you would have a tax lien like that? No, it's not that common. But I'm just sharing with what to think about. The other comment is he shared, in regards of estate planning, my parents would rather pass on the asset, the cash flows, rather than a lump of cash. Cool. So final estate planning, 3 tips I want to share with that for those of you guys who haven't done that yet. 1, right now is a really good time of year. A lot of the estate planners, you can contact Dominic or Derek. I think either Jeff Braylio or Greg Hawkins do a great job in Utah, that they can send them information. Number 2, one of my friends made a comment that in case they passed away prematurely, they want to give everything to their kids so their kids don't have to work at all. Gosh, that sounds horrible. I don't want to do that for my kids. They need to work their asses off for what they want. If my parents gave me stuff, and fortunately they're still alive, but if I got a lump chunk of cash, I probably would not be where I'm at now. So tip number 2, a really smart planner said you don't want to normally give your children, if you have children or not, any assets until they turn 35, and you want to give it to them to supplement their lifestyles, not in chunks of cash, unless it goes to like ecclesiastical, volunteering, or college or something else like that, or buying a home. So the last thing, number 3, is all of you guys who own properties, reevaluate all the values on your homes versus what your rents are, because that's what we're doing right now, and it will help prepare as you go into 2018 so you can do some strategic planning as a real estate investor. So we hope you guys all have an amazing holidays. We hope that all of you guys on the call come to our class in January 6th. It's going to be how to make money before you buy. It's awesome. We haven't confirmed a 2018 class, any schedule thus far, so we'll reevaluate that as things change. We're making a lot of enhancements to MJ Real Consulting. Next week I'm going to a workshop about just life planning that's more for myself, not necessarily touches on business, but we want to be able to give more valid content to help you guys get where you want to go. Last comment, you guys got to study, got to catch these calls and watch the workshops, tutorials to get where you want to go financially. So we hope you guys all have a great Thanksgiving, and thanks Rafael Chavez for letting me talk about this information. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks. Bye.